Here's one towards the goal. That's going to be gloved by Travis Ridgen. Well, this is more like it.
This is Slangin' the Biscuit. Here's Travis Ridgen and Dave Wheeler.
One of my sons has seen your stuff, and he's like, "You're going on that podcast?"
Jonah seen it?
Yeah, Jonah's seen it. Yeah, and he said, "Have you seen the comments and stuff?" And I said, "No, why?" He goes, "Because they're battling all the time." All the time. He goes, "Just so you know." And I said, "I don't care. It's all good. I think it's funny."
Look, Dusty, I've been in broadcasting for 27 years, and my old adage is nobody holds a glass up to a wall to hear people getting along.
Well, what do you say we start? Yep. That's a great intro to start off with as well. But you want an official intro?
Go for it, whatever you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our summer interview series. Today's guest on the greatest hockey show on the planet. This guy was an Olympian. He played for Team Japan in hockey. Team Japan hockey. He was an NHL goalie coach for almost 7 years. Los Angeles Kings, a cup of coffee that lasted less than when I played for the Mississippi Seawolves as the goaltending coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is the pride of New West, BC, currently living in White Rock, just outside the White Rock Pier. Welcome to the show, Dusty Imoo, my friend.
Hey, guys. Nice to be here.
Now,
great intro.
I actually want to start with something he said off the top, and I'm lucky enough that I have a couple of friends who have done a tour over in Japan when it comes to playing hockey, and they said there's nothing comparable to the crowd. Like the way they explained it was, I wish I could tell you what it was like, but I can't. Like they just between the culture and the way they cheer and the way they approach the game. Am I hitting some points here, Dusty?
If you ever watch Mr. Baseball,
Tom Selleck, Tom Selleck show. I remember that.
It seems like totally over the top, but so much of that is real. It's so different. It changed over the years. I was there for 12 years, and from the first year I was there to the end, it changed a lot. They adapted within our team and our organization. A lot of they loosened up a lot, but it is definitely very different. And a lot of pros, the import guys that would come, would last 1-2 years, not because they didn't enjoy it, but the culture change and the way you have to conduct yourself is so different that some people can't handle it. But it was a great experience. They're great people. It's a great place to live.
Out of curiosity, and this is more of a cultural thing, less a hockey thing, but I'm guessing you're a first-generation Canadian. Did it give you any insight back into your cultural history?
Yeah, it was massive. Like when I went, I literally went because Dave King asked if I'd be interested in going there and playing in the Pro League to get my citizenship to play in the Olympics. And that's all I saw. And I didn't know any Japanese other than the good mornings and whatnot. And my grandma and grandpa didn't even speak English. My grandpa did a little bit, but I don't know how I communicated. I didn't care. I was just so into my own world. And it wasn't until I made the jump to the Japan there that I started to embrace it. And then it really opened up for me. And I had to learn how to speak, and then I could connect with my grandma in a different way, and totally changed my life. Changed my life in a lot of ways too, with the game itself. I went from... Out
of curiosity, I mean, as far as the approach, the way you approach the game?
Yeah, I use it a lot in my coach, my business now, and my therapy or whatever you want to call it. But for a lot of years, there was just this, I had a ton of drive, but it was just push. And then I missed this whole section of time where I didn't even know I was just playing and I wasn't loving the game. And then when I got over there, I just developed this family and started playing just for the love of it. And it just blossomed in the last 10, 11 years of my career got better and better and better. And by the end, I was just so sad to retire,
When was that?
And it was Japan that did that for me.
When was that in proximity to the Olympics?
The Olympics were 98. I think it was 94. It took me a little over 3 years to get the citizenship. around there anyways.
Were you in Osaka?
No, I was in Tokyo
Okay.
for the first 9 years. Then I switched teams, and I played my last 3 years up north in Hokkaido.
Up where it snows. You got the snowy bit.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit of a change for sure, but it was also a great experience because there's a lot more traditional. Tokyo is very modern, and it was a little bit of a throwback for sure.
How did your North America? I'm sure it must have been a duality where, I mean, you go there and nobody looks at you sideways, but you're still this North American hockey player that's showing up to a culture that you don't really know outside of, what you've learned from family. So I'm curious to know what that experience was like.
There was so much to adapt to along the way, but one thing I have to give big kudos and credit to, the organization let us be us. They really weren't pushy, even though the culture is they're very great hosts. But if you're going to live in their culture, they feel you should have to try to adapt to their culture. And this goes to, we can go off into.
I was literally going to ask that. I was going to ask that.
A whole different angle, but I respected it. But they were also very gracious in letting us be us. And at our age, too, we were a little bit boastful about the Canadian way. And in hockey, they really let us do that because that was kind of the whole reason for us going there. But in the other areas of living and melding into their ways, you really had to make an effort, but they did give us time to adjust to that. It was there were a lot of things that were so different, though.
I'm very envious to be able to. I always tell a lot of my friends, and I said this 20 years ago, there was a lot of guys that were kind of on that bubble as far as, where are you going to go play? Are you going to make pro? Are you going to make pro North America? And a lot of these guys had opportunities to go play in some of these very not traditional places, and they said no because they were scared. Well, I can't speak the language. I don't know about the food. I don't know how I get along. Not realizing people spend their entire lives saving up to go on a trip for a week, maybe 2 weeks if they're lucky, and someone's willing to pay you to go live there and experience that culture. And it blew me away that no one is willing to take that leap. There's
a lot of people that you get in that comfort zone, and then putting yourself out there to go to somewhere totally foreign. You can shut that off. And if you have someone like, say, myself to maybe give you that encouragement, Jonah he could have went, and he chose not to.
Jonah's your son, for those that don't know.
Yeah. And he probably has some small little regrets, but people make decisions, and we got to live with them. But yeah, going to places like that, when I would tell people, they would think it sounded like, his career failed because of how highly rated I was. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It really was. And my family raised all my kids there, and you can't give that kind of education. You know what I mean? They're American Canadians, and my last one was born there, so he has all three passports.
Wow, what a gift!
You know what I mean?
What a gift!
So that's so cool.
That must have been nicer in 2020. Sorry, I'd like to come in. Oh, sorry, we're not allowing Canadians. Here's my American passport. Oh, come on in.
Yep.
Or if they say not Canadians as well. I'm
actually Japanese now.
All of a sudden, you're a secret agent.
Oh, yeah, come on in.
Come on over here, Mr. Bond. We have a few questions for you.
This makes sense.
How many passports do you have?
Dusty, here's a question for you. This is something I think is going to be a first in the show. So I'm only a year removed from playing in one of the minor leagues of pro. If, let's say, I was contemplating a comeback and I said, Dusty, I'm very interested in this whole Japan thing. For everybody listening at home that has no idea, can you pitch me on why it would be cool to come over and what specifically about the culture is awesome, and then the hockey aspect itself?
It has been a while, so it is tough for me to speak on the hockey because it has, as far as the level has regressed quite a bit since when I played.
I want to touch on that. Keep going, but I want to touch on that.
For sure. So having said that, instead of having ex-NHLers as the imports, it's now East Coast leaguers, and the money is significantly lower. When I used to tell people what I made, that were playing, say, in Germany or whatever, people would lose their minds, because it was literally the hidden golden gem of all of Europe, European opportunities to play. Everybody automatically thought Swiss league, right? But then when people found out what we made, and it's just an easy way to live, and you play on the weekends. And
how much?
And
looking for a dollar figure here, please.
Ballpark it. Just ballpark it. Make them happy.
A lot.
A lot? Are we talking six figure? We're talking Canadian dollars, not yen.
Tell you what, tell us in yen and we'll figure it out from there.
It was,
I got the converter loaded up.
It's 6 figures and above. Yeah.
Wow.
Like way above.
Wow.
$100,000 Canadian a year to go play in the Japanese Pro League.
Yeah, and it wasn't 100,000.
Wow.
That's not bad.
It was a lot more.
That's not a bad deal.
And it was U.S. and it was tax free, and it used to go to my Swiss bank at UBS.
What's it look like now?
Those were the good old days. Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is like, what happened? Because I think we all saw this kind of, like Japan is not necessarily a watch out for them, but they were slowly progressing. They were on this steady kind of progress. And then, it just seemed like they dropped off. Like they qualified for the Olympics one year because they were the host, and everyone thought, all right, they've got some skill. And then nothing. It was crickets.
Well, everybody thought that would, after the Olympics, they would use that and then create this buzz to expand the league. But it was an interesting dynamic, because the owner of our team and the Kokodo team, the two Tokyo teams, Tsutsumi-san was the richest man in the world at the time, before Gates. And he had the Seibu Empire. And he had this uncanny... he was a huge hockey lover. He had owned the Seibu Lions baseball team, but hockey was his hidden little love. But he liked it to stay within these 6-8 teams, and that was it. And he had a bit of a control over the league as well. So he was the biggest promoter of the Olympics. And he was the one who hired Dave King and paid him big money to turn the program around. And that's where Dave got the idea to bring the Japanese Canadians that were playing pro over, get citizenship, bring in more high-level imports, like Tom Curvers and these kinds of guys. And that changed the whole league, and it was really a strong league. And it showed in the Olympics. And we performed well, and we were playing in the A-Pool World Championships and all that stuff. And then once it was done, nothing changed. And they didn't promote it. And it just stayed the same. And so I played the rest of my career, and it was great. But then you could tell the last couple of years, the 3 years, I think it was, they added it, changed it from the Japan League to the Asian League. They brought in 2 Chinese teams, 2 Korean teams, a Russian team, and it was just really weird. And when I left, I would watch and see the types of players that were re-signing, and it just got lower and lower as far as the types of players, and the money was getting lower and lower and lower. And unfortunately, they dropped to B pool. Like, I kind of could see it coming though.
It sounds to me like they wanted to expand, but weren't willing to play ball with the way the other countries wanted to do it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I could go on for hours about the whys. But like we talked about before, with the way the Japanese culture is, very stubborn, very slow moving. And as far as doing it the Canadian or the American way, that didn't resonate. And changing, like, if they had changed it from companies owning the teams to just private owners and investors, and just whoever wants to have a team, and have a franchise, you get in, you can get in there. It wasn't like that, and it just stayed the same.
So how do you make that transition, though, from going over to Japan and playing to NHL goalie coach? Can you walk us through that?
Well, I didn't want to be around the game because for a while, because I retired solely for the family. Like I said, I was really enjoying the game, but I played my last 3 seasons when my wife and kids moved back to White Rock because we wanted to get the boys immersed in schooling and hockey because they wanted to play more hockey at a higher level. So each year was a single year season signing. I signed a year up north and said I'll play 1 more year, and I did it, and I would travel back for holidays and off season. And then I would coax my wife into 1 more year and sign another year. And the 3rd year, I had a great time and great season. And then she said, I got a call about re-signing. She said, if you go back, you might as well just stay there. So in a joking but not joking way.
Sure.
So the writing was on the wall to hang them up, and because she had all 3 boys in rep hockey, so we're talking 15 ice times a week, and she was Miss Bus Mom, so that wasn't happening anymore. So I retired. Having said that, I didn't want to get back into hockey right away, and plugged along. I opened a freaking smoothie shop, tried to be a businessman, failed at that. And things were like literally not going great. The 2008 crash happened and it hit me hard. And I ended up selling cars and realized that I needed to find something I loved again. And so I said, maybe I could try coaching. I don't know. So I just, with my contacts, I contacted a few people, and Billy Ranford actually mentioned me to the Seattle Thunderbirds. And I've known Billy since I was 16 years old. And I talked to Russ Farwell, and he hired me, and I just went like 7 days of the month. I drove down, and first year I had Calvin Pickard, and I realized at that moment that, one, I was actually pretty good at it. I had this ability to connect with people, and just being in the locker room in the office and being on the ice, I realized, yeah, this is kind of what I'm meant to do. And then I did the 2nd year there. And then in the summertime, I did the Team Canada POE camp in Calgary. They asked me to coach in that, the goalie thing. And I saw a buddy of mine, Wade Flaherty.
Good old Flats, still here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and Flats and I were talking, and he mentioned, we're just in the final stages of hiring a new position, not just a minor league goalie coach, but a development NHL goalie coach. And I'm like, dude, hello. I said, what about, I do that. And he said, oh, really? You'd be interested? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I think they're almost done with the process. They were down to a couple people. He said, I'll see if I'll talk to Zinger and see if I can get you an interview. And the next day, I think Zinger called me and he said, would you be willing to fly down in a couple days or whatever, flying to Winnipeg? And so I did. And did the interview with Chevy and Zinger and those guys. And I actually played with Chevy in U18, Team Canada and stuff. So I already knew him. And then a week later, I got the job.
Wow.
For the Jets.
Yeah.
And you made it alive. You didn't get the Winnipeg handshake. You ever heard of the Winnipeg handshake before?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had some real good success right off the hop. I had Hutch, went from the coast to the NHL that year. And then I had Helly and Boods, and Helly went up, and that's when I signed with LA.
What a small world, man. I'm constantly amazed. Okay, so take me from Winnipeg to LA. How did that
Can
happen?
we talk about Bucky first for a second?
Oh, yeah,
though?
sure, of course, yeah.
Before we go to LA, like you're seeing literally the youngest version of Connor Hellebuyck up until today. Like what was that like, and what did you see, and what were some stories of like working with him in that relationship?
Oh, it was awesome. He's a great kid. Well, I just was gonna say he's a great kid.
He's a dad now.
He's a great guy. And when he first came, he is, how can I describe him? He is the most, and I've had a lot of guys, he is the most confident person in who he is and how he wants to be and how he wanted to play, even when he came to Winnipeg. But not saying he may be stubborn, but he's always open to listening. But he has a very well-oiled machine up in his head about how he wants to do things, and you had to convince him with facts and reason, and it was a real easy relationship. He and I have an easy way of getting to people, so it really worked. Lots of fun to work with. Totally interesting because he's so outside my wheelhouse as far as the type of goalie that I would gravitate towards, like just in stylistically. But it helped me be a better coach because I was just admiring someone that could stop the puck in a totally different way and then just add my 10 cents to what he was doing. And, there were just a few little things that I maybe helped him out with along the way to make that transition into pro. But there was no doubt he was going to be a great goalie. It just would I have said he's going to be the best goalie in the world? I was always hopeful, and I knew that he thought he could be for sure.
Can you expand a little bit? Like when you're talking about he's not typically your wheelhouse of goaltender, what is that, and what was he, and what were some things that you worked on?
Well, I don't mean not my wheelhouse of goaltender. I'm just saying stylistically, the goalies that I gravitate towards as far as like enjoying just for fun to watch. Like I love Tuukka Rask, for example, and love Quickie. And I like seeing guys dive around and make big saves. But have a technical aspect to their game as well and control, and have real good flow. And I like watching that. But then I watched Helly and it helped me because I didn't jump in there and say, hey, what about this or this? I just kind of let him do his thing because he was a lot more stagnant. He liked to be set a lot. He didn't like to have a ton of movement. And
that's easier with a big body, though, is it not?
For sure. But I was just in awe that he could still get the places.
And I would assume because he plays a little bit deeper, obviously.
Yeah, but he adjusted that as well. He played around with things. There were certain things regarding screens and stuff that he had this deep playing mindset. But he would that first year would get beat on stuff from the top with screens because he was playing so deep. And so he's a great student of the game, and he's figured it out, obviously.
Dusty, there's an NHL goalie who sent me a message a couple weeks ago about Hellebuyck because I made a clip talking about how he's the best in the world as far as not getting out of the way. It's something that I've learned from Pascal, another friend of yours, is just don't get out of the way. Like 70% of goals are guys getting out of the way and giving up the net. I know it sounds insane, but it's true. This NHL goalie messaged me and said, dude, I see this guy all the time. There is no words to describe how smart he is, his ability to read the play like nobody else, and also to not get out of the way. He doesn't get out of the he stays in the way more than anybody else on the planet. Did you see anything like that? Or is that something that's more recent with his game?
When I would have to go scout people, one of the things, maybe this is the old school in me, I just like to see if they had a good vibe on reading the puck and getting in front of. Are we allowed to swear on this?
Oh yeah, we can censor it. Don't worry.
Okay, getting in front of the thing, right? And I can look at the technical aspect of their skating and how good they are at those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, there's something to admire about someone. And you can see if you try not to look too hard at every little thing they do and just see, are they good at getting in front of the puck? Like people have an instinct for that. And some don't. Some you're like, whoa, you got to go check out this guy. And you watch him in the clips and, in practice and stuff and goalie skates. And this guy's legit. And then they drop the puck and this thing got by him somehow. He moved beautifully, perfectly, and it still went in. And you're like, some people don't have that ability. They can work on their game and look really good doing it, but have troubles getting in front of pucks on a consistent basis. And Helly was that's one thing I noticed right away. He could get in the middle of it on lots of things because he knew where the puck was going. And instead of like just getting a piece of it, he would get it right in the chest and people would be, why are you shooting it at him there? But that's him just knowing where the puck's going. And some people just have that ability. It's
funny you mentioned him kind of being like not as exciting. And I see a lot of comments about that online too. But as a fan of goaltending, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it's just so fun to watch, like where are the little details, because it doesn't look overwhelmingly impressive. But then you look at the stats and like, there's something here because nobody else is doing this.
Well, that's one thing. Everybody's has been waiting, and media and critics always are looking for that crack, the crack in the armor, and it always comes out with Helly about playoffs, right? And I don't quite see it like that. He's gonna have his day. I know him, and God willing, it'll be now. I always wish the best for him, but like his trajectory and his game right now has just gotten better and better, and he's had his challenges, but I think he's playing unbelievably right now, and I think these first couple games, hopefully he can just continue to build on this, and then they can ride him.
What do you think of his comments last year in the playoffs when he had the series against Colorado and he came out and said, I've been playing the best hockey of my life the past week?
I think he was having some self-talk to himself. He's no dummy. He needs to stay up here in his head. And I think that helped him in his own way. I'm sure, he'll relook at that the older he gets, we all say things, but in that moment, I know I would guess as to why he was just trying to solidify himself and ground himself so he could move forward. Right. If you and I have the total other end of the spectrum with Soup, and he was always so hard on himself. Right. Like how he would come out and say how terrible he was, or,
sorry, just for everyone listening, who are we talking about specifically?
Jack Campbell.
Okay.
And just very, very takes everything, all responsibility always on himself, on every loss and whatnot. So that just having a balance is important. And I think Helly was just trying to create that balance in himself that, if things don't go right, I felt like I was great.
We're hovering around what I think a lot of people are thinking is what you're trying to put your finger on, that X factor. And I don't think anyone's quite figured out what that X factor is. I think that X factor is different in everybody. But from what I understand with your goalie coaching and what you're doing, you're trying to zero in on that through a little more. And I've said this before, so don't take offense, either of you. I'm the only defenseman in this room. But goalies are a little weird, all right? And I think you both know that. And I think based on what I'm understanding from you is that you're trying to zero in on each individual goaltender finding that X factor. Am I accurate on that?
Anyone that has followed my coaching career, if you ever heard anybody, media or anybody talk about me as I developed more of a reputation, I became quite known. And that's why I made my business name, The Goalie Therapist, kind of as a joke, because everybody would call me this like goalie guru, the shaman of goalie coaches, the Dr. Phil of goalie coaches.
The Caesar Milan, the whisperer.
It was kind of goalie whisperer. I got that one. But it was all because I developed this way of coaching that was way more geared towards what was going on up here. And I always, even when I coached Calvin my first year, I was kind of more focused on that because I was just putting myself where I was in my life at certain stages and how I would think, and all the getting pulled or getting sat for 5 games straight or all these different little things. I'd already experienced every one of them. And I knew what they would probably be thinking and feeling and how shitty you would feel and how it can affect the confidence. And I said, if I can help them with that, then I can help them get their game back on track. And I'm a good goalie coach on the ice. I know what I'm talking about, but I could honestly say 85% of all these big transformations I had with Budai and Campbell and all these guys, it's had nothing to do with the ice. It was all this other stuff. And if you can learn to manage that and become strong up here, we can, create a path to moving forward to your goals. And I'll teach that with anybody outside of hockey into anything. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
If you're loving the episodes and the interviews so far,
I am. One
of the downsides of doing an independent show where no questions, no stones are unturned is sponsorships. And if you want to help us keep the lights on to keep more interviews like this coming, you can sign up to be a YouTube channels member or a Patreon member. It's $5. You get every single interview we have in this series, Patreon perks, exclusive merch, free merch, and more. And the whole list of interviews, you can wait throughout the entire summer or get them all now. And the list goes Chris Mason, Matt Murray, Jamie McLennan, Dale Weiss, Jamie Phillips, Jordan Schmaltz, Matt Hackett, best-selling author Rich Cooper, professional divorce lawyer for professional athletes Ido Walney, Brent Sopel, Bill Ranford, Navy SEAL TC Cummings, my friend Matt Murray, my former teammates Justin Schmidt, Trevor Babin, and more. $5, you get every single episode, perks, and more. What are you waiting for?
And Trav's mom's phone number. So $5 well spent.
You got to sign up for the top tier for that.
If Dusty Imoo stays in North America for his entire career, is he the same coach than the Dusty Imoo that went and spent 12 years over in Japan? And the reason why I'm asking that is, do you feel that that experience you had was allowed you to be able to zero in on those moments with these guys?
I wouldn't say it was the Japan part. I would say all of it, the going through everything I went through, and then getting the lucky opportunity to go there and then refining myself. The combination of it all is what led me to, and all the mistakes in between, and me going through all that. I went through a bit of a tough time during that whole 2008 thing and finding myself. And I don't think any of this happens if I don't go through all of them. Right from the very beginning, when I played my first year junior at 15, and then I went into my first draft year, I was the top goalie in the NHL draft. So I was the shit back then. And so I thought everything was going to be great. And then it was like this, and then it was like this, and all over the map. But I don't think I get to this point and being able to help people if I don't go through all that.
Tell us about the transition off to LA.
I was very fortunate, that Billy and I had that connection for a long time. And, it was very quick. There was, I don't even know who they were looking at, but it was very quick. They had full faith in Billy. And when Billy recommended me, Lombardi was like, if you like him, okay. And it was definitely a different interview. In Winnipeg, it was like everyone in the boardroom and pamphlets and it was definitely different. In LA, I literally walked into Lombardi's office. He said, "I'm busy. I already said hi to you. We'll talk later. Just go over to talk to Blakey." And I sat with him, and Blakey was like, "If you're cool, Billy, and you think this is right, then let's do it."
Sounds right up your alley. Very West Coast kind of hiring.
It worked out great, and they were unreal with me, because by that time it was kind of known how I was. And
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, I don't. Some people, like maybe some people in Winnipeg, would call me aloof. I'm not a big tie guy.
I like the word chill. Can we agree on chill? Okay.
And I will say, to the day I left the NHL, I never really fit in with it all. I do whatever you got to do, but I didn't. The whole business wheel, I had a tough time with. I loved what I did. I loved working with the guys. I loved helping the guys. I loved being in the rink, but all the other stuff I didn't like at all. And that's okay. I think shit happens for a reason, and I'm where I'm meant to be, actually. And people always ask me that, would I ever go back? And I'm like, no.
When you're talking about the business side, things that you don't like, what specifically are you talking about, if I may ask?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just, everybody's just so freaking worried about doing everything and looking good and playing the role, and you don't want to say this or you don't want to do that, and God forbid if you're just 1 minute early for something. And like, I just had a tough time with everybody's walking on eggshells all the time. LA was a lot better for that with me, and just let me be me, and they would make jokes about it. Like the coach in with the Rain, Mike Stuthers, who I love dearly, he used to rip on me all the time, because I would go in the morning at a reasonable hour and sit down, have my coffee, and then get ready and whatever. Stutz would be there freaking 5:30 in the morning, and the whole staff would be working out and doing stuff. And then after we're done, I'm doing my video, done that, and lunch is done, and everybody's staying, and I don't have anything else to do, and so I'd leave. And Stutz would make jokes all the time, like, "Yeah, Dusty's right away looking at flights to get out of here," and "I thought you just got here." But that's just kind of how I rolled. I worked hard at what I did, and I'd go for lunches with my goalies and stuff, and he was like, "All you do is take guys to lunch." And I said, "That's my job." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." But yeah, no, it was just I've taken the parts that I really loved, minus being on the ice. I do miss that part a little bit. And now I'm also get to work with kids and help them before they head into this real cutthroat arena of, junior hockey and stuff.
Well, what kind of advice are you giving these kids? Because it's changed so much since you and I were on the ice, and even Trav. You in the tenure that you've had. Things have changed quite a bit. I'm curious to know what kind of advice, if you had to give one blanket statement to these kids that are about to make that jump into the next realm of hockey. What is it?
It's a tough one to give a blanket statement with just everybody, because I treat everybody so individually, because everybody has a different place in their life and what they're thinking, what they're struggling with, right? But I will say, as a base, I want to try to get everybody, to a place where their base is the love of themselves in the game.
Which comes first? Which comes first?
Themselves first.
Good.
First and foremost, and then the game. And from there, if you have that base, then you can achieve and hit all the failures along the way, and you're going to be fine. But if you're led by money, by status of what other people think, and this is a terrible thing now with social media and what everybody's saying about you, it's going to be really tough for you. So with the kids, I really try to, and I tell all parents when they see, if they're just find me through Google or something, and they see NHL coach, that I'm going to try to propel them to the next level. Before I accept anybody, I always say that I never am about where they're going to, what team they're going to make or anything. I'm just trying to build strong people.
When you mentioned taking your goalies out for lunch, is there any stories that come to mind, like different guys? Like maybe you take Soupy out, you take Helly, you take Hutch, maybe you take your son before his first American League start, which we get to that in a second. Are there any fun stories that come to mind?
So many. I do.
What was your go-to spot? Where would you take him? Did you have one spot you'd go?
Well, actually, Soup used to like to take me to Fleming's all the time, the steakhouse. And but I remember taking Cal and Campbell, Soupy, to Gyukaku. It's the Korean barbecue, and they had never had this before. And Gyukaku is actually a franchise that was in Japan, so I was all pumped to take him to this. And I do remember that one. I got a picture, a nice one of those two together, and some good times for sure.
Can we talk about Soupy for a second too? Sorry, before we pass, that's another story I think we should dive into a little bit before we get to the Leaf stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Because I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, he had been 10th overall by Dallas, kind of fallen a little bit short on expectations, and they thought he was going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe didn't utilize him properly. He comes to LA, and then you guys pick him up and then send him all the way back up to top prospect from prospect or suspect to prospect, mm-hmm. and then you dish him for top value.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a lot of great stories about everyone I've worked with. He was a real personal one for me because he was the first guy that I decided to fly to White Rock and stay with me before I'd ever met him, and before camp when we traded for him, and because I heard that he was not very stable, going through tough mentally. And when he stayed with me, we became close right away, and I figured out where the challenge was for him. And he was just so hard on himself, and he attributed all of his success or failures. He attached that to him as a person, and he couldn't separate. That was it, his identity, right? Once I got him to trust me and believe that we could just go out and have some fun together and work on the game and just enjoy his time with the Ontario Reign and not worry about the LA Kings, shit just changed like that. And he had so much fun, and then he went up and then it just got better and better. And even when he went to Toronto, obviously we stayed in contact and keeping him on track, and things got better and better and better. And but there are things in our being that if you're not careful and don't keep working at it and stay on it, can creep back. And it got to him. Some of the old ways got to him when he signed that big ticket, and he was really hard on himself, but right now, I'm just happy he's doing better right now as a person.
Do you think part of that was with the big ticket, there's extra money involved, obviously, and they're spending this money on me. I need, and that money and that is tied to his identity. Is there some truth in that?
Very much. Like I said, a lot of the old ways of thinking started to creep back. Like if he had a couple bad games or something, the city's going to be disappointed. The fans, my coaching staff, because I'm supposed to be the savior and the one to take them to the promised land, and put all that back on him. Where the old stuff that we worked on, and him just going out and playing and having fun, kind of took the back seat a little bit because he's putting that pressure. And it doesn't just happen in one day, but you start to think like that a little bit more and more, and then it's tough to slow that down. once you start rolling down the hill a little bit, you know.
Sorry to cut you off. It's kind of weird that happened in Edmonton, though, and he only excelled in Toronto. You would think it would be the other way around, where Toronto, he would just fall off a cliff with the pressure that's over there.
Yeah, but see, it was different because, one, he was very not too far removed from this mindset that we had set for him in LA, and he was just being humble and going out every day and win, lose, or draw. And then from that, he got the ball in a nice, slow, organic way by chance. You know, it didn't just say, you're the guy. It just kind of happened, and he got better and stronger and was having a great time, and he was still getting paid not great compared to a lot of guys that were playing not as good as him. And so there's not that pressure, right? You know, it was a bonus that Soupy was playing great. And it wasn't until that year, that summer of the negotiations or lack thereof in Toronto, that things started to shift for him, I think. And because he did pull through big time and now show that he could be the guy. He could be a number one goalie. And I always knew he could be. I just, managing, that stuff up here, it was going to be his biggest challenge.
You've talked about coaching some pretty big names, and I'm curious to know, from a father to a father, when it came to your son, here's a guy who is half of you, but you've got all this experience of how the way it should be, and all these goaltenders that you've had success with doing the whole whispering thing. What kind of challenge was it doing that?
I think I developed a long time ago with all the kids that I would never jump in there with them and let them just have fun. And only when Jonah asked me about stuff, whatever the only time I ever said stuff to the boys was when they were disrespectful or they didn't try, or bitched and moaned about going to practice or something like that. But other than that, I just let them play. And I try, since I had done that right from when they were little, when this whole thing in Jonah started ascending and junior and stuff like that, I tried to maintain that. So I would skate with them if you wanted, but I wouldn't say, hey, we're going to skate. Or if you wanted to skate, I would take them and I would give him drills and I would give him tips or whatever. And he wanted it though at that. But if he didn't and he wanted to go see someone else, or I wouldn't care. If that's what you want, do that. So by the time he came to LA, it was a challenge because he's in LA, but I set it up so and had a way of doing things anyways that I could just be his coach and then and just kind of let him do his thing. And then when he needed talking to, I would. But it was definitely to separate the parent and coach thing. That whole thing was quite interesting. And then obviously with the whole story that happened.
Well, and let's touch on that story because there's two names that come to mind. Most recently, the James family with LeBron and his son playing with the LA Lakers, and Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. playing together. And Dusty, you're in that category, man. That's some pretty elite company to be part of, man. To be able to play and share the ice with your son, I commend you, man. That's pretty cool. It
was, and the way it went down was just so hilarious. It was, I could never have scripted that on how it went down.
Fill everyone in with the story for those that are like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, I wasn't even in Ontario.
This is Ontario, California, by the way, for those that don't know. Yeah.
So it's about 45 minutes away or 2.5 hours, depending on traffic. But I was in LA doing the pregame skate for the Vancouver Canucks. They were in town in LA. I was doing that pregame skate because Billy had to book off to some I don't know if alumni thing or family thing. I can't remember. So I was doing the pregame skate there, and Jonah had already been called up to back up. He had been backing up Soupy, and we had injury situation. Quickie was out, and I can't remember. I think it was Budai and Zats were up. I think Budai and Zats were up, and I was doing that pregame skate, and Zatkov went down screaming with a groin or something, and I looked, and my mind right away was reeling. I was like, "Wow, man!" Because we had so many injuries, and I literally, it was a few minutes of everybody freaking out, and someone said, "Blakey wants you upstairs," and I went up, and they had talked and said, "We're not going to be able to get a backup to Ontario in time. You're going to have to go back up your son." and
this way you're like, "Where's the cameras?"
And I said, "I'll do it. I got no," because they had bought me gear, and I've been practicing, so for that very reason, just in case, and to help with the guys not being tired and stuff. So that wasn't the issue. I said, "But you sure? Like, this, my son and this whole thing, I don't want the attention to be around this." And he goes, "Well, if you're good with it, we're good with it, because we don't have another option right now." And I said, "All right." And he goes, "You got to get in the car right now and go." So I'm packing my
So was it 45 minutes or 2.5 hours? How long did it take you to get there?
Tell you the truth, so my mind was going through so much. I don't remember. And I did 3 interviews in the car along the way, because it went out fast.
Sure.
And I did.
By the way, another name just popped into my head while you're thinking about that. Gordie Howe. You're in that category too. Yeah.
But yeah, I did a bunch of interviews in the car along the way, and then I talked to my son and my wife, and I asked Jonas, "Are you cool?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "This." He thought it was awesome. He was actually a lot more chill than I was. I was just, because I didn't want to, because I walked into the dressing room, and our stalls were right next to each other, and both Emos were all already, the nameplates are on there, and our gear and our jerseys, and they had my number, and which was super cool. And I just didn't want that to be the whole attention. I wanted him to have a good first American League hockey game and enjoy it, and not be about that dad's backing him up. So I tried to, I did enjoy a few moments for sure, but I tried to get out of his hair, and I tried not to be a focus point, and yeah, I just enjoyed the whole thing. It was so weird, though. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm on the bench, and I'm watching him, and I'm like dad mode, coach mode, and he'd come to the bench, and I was like, "This is so cool." Like, it was the coolest thing ever, man.
Are you watching him make saves? You're like, "Yes, come on, son, come on."
Yeah. It was fun, man. It was fun.
When he comes to the bench during the media timeout, though, is he calling you Dad or Dusty? Like, "Hey, Dusty, do you have a towel?"
No, it's Dad. It's always Dad. If any of my kids call me Dusty, I get pissed.
That's awesome, dude. I can only imagine, like, if I was I know, like, my dad never skated really, but if I could share that with him, how cool that would be. And I'm sure with you and your boys, either one of them, how cool that would be to, Dad pass with the shampoo in the post-game shower. Well, speaking of getting rinsed, why don't we talk about the theme, the headliner for this show? I'm curious. Was that a good transition? You like that one, Dusty?
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about this? So you're in LA, you're the development goalie coach for the Kings, and then this opportunity in Toronto presents itself. We had Billy Ranford on the show a while ago, and he mentioned that he recommended you and really pushed for you hard. But can you tell the story start to finish of how you're in LA and now you're the development goalie coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Actually, you're missing a section in between that. 2019 season ends, and then I get a call from Weeksy, Kevin Weeks, and he goes, "Hey man, would you ever be interested in going to the KHL?" And I was up for to renegotiate my contract in LA, and he knew that. And I said, "Well, not really. But I said, what are we talking dollars wise? And he told me, and I'm like, okay, I'm interested.
Can I ask
And
how much?
What's that?
Can I ask how much?
I don't want to talk money.
Okay.
It was way like 3 times more than yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, where's it at? And he said it's the Kunlun Red Star. They're out of Beijing, but they're in the K, and they're building for the Olympic program. So there's a 2-part attachment, and an interesting thing, since I had all this Olympic experience and whatnot, they wanted me to help the Chinese program, and I'd be in the K and make great money. And I spoke with them. I turned down the LA deal, and I talked to Billy, about it, and he's like, when he found out how much, he's like, you got to go. So it was tough because I really loved being there in LA, but I left, and then second half of the season starts in January 24th. We were heading out of Beijing to Russia on a road trip, and we weren't even to the airport. And we got word through the manager that we wouldn't be allowed to go back into China for the rest of the season. So we got into Moscow, and then we ended up living out of the suitcase we had for the rest of the season in a hotel based out of Moscow, and just went to all the other games. All our home games were moved to games in Russia and stuff, and finished the season there. And it was because of the COVID thing.
Was that a thing? I missed that.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
January 24th, when we found about the Wuhan thing, and so we weren't allowed back in the country. Finished the year just in time. I got into Canada just before. I was worried I wasn't going to be allowed back in. And I got in, and then the lockdowns and everything. So I got word that I wasn't going to be going back, even though I had a 2-year deal. They were, because all the unknown with, what was going to happen with COVID. So I was sitting around knowing I wasn't going back. And so I started talking to guys. Different pros would be calling me because they were going through stuff with all of this. And I was helping people, doing what I do. And I was like, I could do this with anybody and then make some money, So that's literally how it started. Help a little pro out here, pro here. And that's when I just started making a website. And then some parents started reaching out, and that's when I started helping kids. And then, like, I did a couple, it just had started, and like literally just had started. And that's when I got the call about, because Soupy called me and asked if I would consider, that working in that organization.
In Toronto, you mean?
Yeah, because Soupy had left and gone to Toronto. And obviously that was the big reason why they had interest in me. And I think by July or something, I signed the contract, and then the rest.
Can you walk us through the process though of getting the deal? So Bill Ranford, for context, he was telling me that he was vouching for you. It was a little bit of a lengthier process just because it was the Leafs. But so how do you go from, okay, Soupy has made a call to say, please bring Dusty into the organization. He helped me. He's a great asset, to here's the pen and paper. Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah, I did. It was a little different. Like, it wasn't like the whole LA thing. I had to go through some video and game tape of prospects and what I thought of them, Joseph Wall and some of these kids that were coming up. And they wanted to see what, in real time kind of how I analyzed things and how I spoke about people and what I would do to help improve them and all of this kind of stuff. And so it was well done. It was, they trying to do all their homework and get the right person in there. And then ultimately, the goal is to hopefully help Soup, in time and get that going too. But they did I got to hand it to them in that sense. They're very professional about it. So it did take a little bit of time. Plus, I wasn't sure, about it all, to tell you the truth. Going over, leaving family and going to Toronto. I didn't know if that was what I wanted to do, but I finally made the decision that I would do it, and so I signed the deal, and then all that other stuff happened right after.
And how long of a turnaround time was it before the media got did what they do with the spin doctors that work at the Toronto Star and the Toronto Sun?
Well, I signed the contract in the evening, and then the next morning I got a bunch of calls and texts congratulating me, and my son, my oldest boy, texted me, say, "Hey, Dad, congrats, man! It was on Twitter. The team announced the hiring." And I said, "Oh, cool." So I got a bunch more texts, and then couldn't have been more than 45 minutes later, my same son texted me, and he said, "Hey, Dad, you better get on your Twitter. You're getting roasted." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Just go on like now." And I literally went on and I'm reading the stuff. And then I got a call from the AGM and how we're going to handle this and whatnot. And it seemed like all was cool. They were not to worry. Just shut down your accounts for, put them on pause for now, and we'll deal with it. And then for maybe the next day, I thought we were having a meeting, and then I think 48 hours later, my agent texted me. He said, "I don't think you're having a meeting." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Because the dude said he posted this big thing, like not just a little tweet, but a poster size thing saying how we didn't do our due diligence and we will not be adding Dusty to our organization."
I believe me, there's nobody that knows better what that feels like when your character is attacked, when people don't know the full context, people don't know who you are, people don't know, they just see one aspect and attack it. And I have a lot of empathy for you, man. And I'm really, and in a strange way, I'm really proud of you for being able to persevere and be able to take it, insulate it, not have it affect you overall as a human being. Because in the short chat that we've had, I can tell that you're a good human being. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Yeah, very, really very intelligent. I mean, I could sit here and sing your praises for hours, but I give you a lot of credit for persevering through that and using it as a learning moment.
Well, that's why I told you guys before the interview that I wasn't shy to talk about it. Not because I wanted to go out and bash the team or anything like that, but to use it as a learning tool, a helpful tool to show that if stuff happens, whatever it is that's bad, you can bounce and you can move on from it.
In this day and age, it's almost a rite of passage, is it not?
Very, very much so. That's why I had no problem. I don't mind talking about it at all, because I think it can be very helpful. Because, I could have been really pissed and still to this day could be, about how I got effed, or whatever, or about what people said about me and how long or what it would do to my image or my reputation. And, for quite a few years, 5 pages deep on Google, man, I was like the golden boy. Every article was like, "Oh, I did this and this and this. I'm such a, care about people and all this." And then it just disappeared to 5 pages about I was a extremist and a white supremacist and homophobe, transphobe, and all this stuff, and ESPN, you name it, all the clickbait headlines, that's all you could find. And I could have taken that really hard and thought everything was done, but I was like, you know what? They don't know me. This happens. There was a definite, you had to take a good hard look and shake the gloves and get, loosen up and get going. But I was fortunate enough. I had about 6 months where, I had to stay quiet, for legal stuff and not going social. And it was good for me, actually. So I started thinking about, so maybe that goalie therapist thing, I'm going to actually do it. Like, maybe this is what telling me what I'm supposed to do. And I got more and more motivated and more positive about it, that maybe shit happens for a reason, as opposed to becoming the victim. And by the time I was ready to roll and I'm not a big social media guy, but I got to use it. So when I did, I wasn't plastering stuff about how I got. It was more about what I was going to do with my life. And
good for you, man, because sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. And I know that's a cliche, but when you're in it, it's a lot easier to say it once you come out of it. But I give you a lot of credit for recognizing that early.
Yeah, and you know what? Everybody's worried that I wasn't going to be able to get people to come work with, let their kids work with me or this or that. But I thought, you know what? If people really get to see me, and the more they see me, this stuff will disappear in time. And even however long it takes, however long it takes, but I'm not going to let this hold me back. And I was fortunate that it has been like that. And a lot of people know, even they might not even be like, don't even really know, because I don't talk about it, about where I stand on shit. Mm-hmm. But you could maybe guess about stuff. But they don't care, because they know that I have my best interest, have their kids' best interest at heart, or whoever I'm working with, that I just want to help them. I don't give a shit who you voted for. I just want to help,
Well, if there's anything I've learned, that media stands on the shoulders of giants in order to make their dollars.
Yeah, there's a couple that I remember. I'm human, and I have the old player in me has a heat button for sure. And there is a couple. There's that one Toronto dude, that guy.
You know what's interesting, and this is my opinion. I'll extrapolate this out to Steve Dangler or any of these other people. These people that are going to come here and criticize you are the furthest thing from being respectable. They are completely unrespect worthy. They haven't accomplished anything in their lives, and then they're coming at some guy who has been an Olympian. Have you been an Olympian? No. I've played in the Western League. Have you? No. I've been an NHL goalie coach for 3 different organizations. Have you? No. I've accomplished all these things. You're some nerd and a keyboard. And for a little bit of context, too, for anybody watching, so Dusty made a tweet, Dusty did not make a tweet. It was that some nerd went right through the archives of like 8 years ago and found some tweet that maybe Dusty accidentally hit the heart button or whatever on, said, he's a terrible person. Put it on the front page. Just like straight out of Spider-Man. These geeks in Toronto. You know what? If I could tell just a really short story with you, Dusty, I always knew that these guys were dirtbags. I know Steve Simmons releasing all like Austin Matthews medical reports and then this situation stuff. But so Matt Murray is a personal friend of mine. And him and I did a podcast last summer. He texted me in the spring, dude, I love the show. I like us to do a show together. I think we could share a great conversation. I said, dude, listen, you're my boy, and I'm honored that you want to do that. I'll absolutely do that, and I'll handle it with the most respect. And we had a great conversation, last an hour and a half, hour 45, and he says, I just make sure you send me a copy after. I just want to make sure everything's all good because the media is nuts. And I thought, okay, cool, not a problem. Send him a copy, all good to go, post it up. And so for our show, I have Google Alerts turned on. And so anytime like a media article like posts the show or uses a clip, I get an email about it. And I post the show. The next day, some of these dirtbags from these like Toronto sports podcasts, Leafs specific shows, and these beat writers, Matt Murray used the salary cap to milk a year of pay, and just like all of these like spin jobs. And I'm reading this shit and I'm thinking, how did you come up with this? You losers, you nerds.
Clickbait.
Like, how did you honestly come up with this? Look yourself in the mirror and say, post. I'm proud of this. Like, what are you doing? It's so unrespect worthy, these people. Sorry, I went off there for a bit, but
I didn't listen to it. I just saw the headline of the video, the YouTube video, and it was about what a terrible hire. How could they even in the first place, kind of thing. And I was like, it was so weird to me. It was quite fascinating. There was a bit of anger at the beginning, but I was just like, how do you get that from all the stuff I had done up to that point and all the good I had done up to that point to being such a bad hire? When they didn't even know, a lot of people that started chirping about it didn't even know what had happened. They just saw that I was extremist I'd done extremist tweets or a far, whatever, anti-vaxxer, whatever these headlines were. And then they just would go hard at it without even knowing that I never tweeted anything. I never use my social media for my personal opinions or anything like that. It's always to try to help and give people, motivation and to better themselves in their lives. And then for someone like that, it's one thing for some Joe Blow, like, Smitty 10-4-57, with no picture to say something, whatever. But a media guy or whatever he calls himself to just go at me without even looking at all that stuff and knowing really about me. Like, if you ever took the time to talk to someone that knows me, you would never have made that video, but literally.
Well, look, Dusty, here's what I'll say. I think if Toronto would have stayed the course, they would be a lot closer to having a new banner up in their rink right now. Okay. Now, in saying that, I'm curious to know, were you more, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, were you more disappointed in the media coverage or the fact that the Maple Leafs bought into that media coverage and didn't stick with you?
I get it. It's a way bigger machine than even what's their company called?
Maple Leafs
MLSE.
Yeah. It's even bigger than that.
It's the same company that canceled me, by the way, so I get it.
But it's even bigger than them, and it's like everybody's afraid of someone up above, of what's going to happen to them, and that trickle down effect goes all the way down. And so, at first I was disappointed, obviously, on how quickly it felt like the support and everything. You do feel like the wheels fall off and no one's got your back, oh my God, right? But as I do understand that the heat and that pressure and people make decisions like that, right? And maybe even some of them have thoughts, man, if we had just read this out or whatever, it would have been fine. But like I said, I don't look at it like that right now. I think it's a blessing. I've helped way more people, instead of a couple millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And I've helped some kids that now will be set up in their lives and are going to be okay, even if things don't work out for them. So them making the decision they did was actually a great thing for a lot of other people. So I'm cool.
Okay, I got to ask you. I ask you this to everybody that we have, and I know your journey is a little bit different. But when you got that first big NHL check, what did you do with it?
Well, my KHL checks were a lot bigger than my
Okay, I will reform the. When you got that first big hockey check, what'd you do with it? What was the first selfish spend you made?
First selfish one, I literally bought a guitar in.
Well, I see one in the background. Is that a Fender Strat I see behind you on your left-hand side?
That's a Strat. No, but I bought an acoustic because I was in Yekaterinburg, one of the Russian teams. I was in one of these cities, and I was bored out of my skull, and I was like, I'm gonna get a guitar. And, you know, I wouldn't just spend on a guitar usually, like just out of the blue. And I was like, I just got on into a cab and asked where the music shop was. And I walked in and I bought it. That was my first frivolous spend.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, I think it's upstairs somewhere. But
Cool.
and then when I left Russia, when I was just trying to get back to Canada in time, I did spend 4 days in Moscow. I met with the management and stuff before leaving, and I said, "Fuck it, I stayed at the Ritz, and I got a suite, and I lived like a king for 4 days, and then life changed."
Worth it.
It was.
What was the best part of the suite of the Ritz?
Well, I haven't drank in 13 years, but it would have been the bar. It was unreal. Like, it was unreal. We're not talking a mini bar. Full bottles all across in the glass case, all ready to drink. And if I had been a drinker back in my day, that thing would have been made of good use for sure.
I feel that, dude. I don't drink either personally, so like with my Fairmont status and my other hotel status, I feel like I'm wasting value because they're like, "Would you like some free alcohol, sir?" Or like when you fly Air Canada, beer or wine, sir. It's like I can't drink that. I need a sparkling water, but they charge the sparkling water and the booze is free.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's a little bit of self therapy over here, but anyway.
Dusty, this has been amazing, man. Honestly, it was the legend has preceded you, and you've lived up to every expectation in this chat. And honestly, man, I wish you nothing but the best. I think you deserve it. I really think you do, and I wish the best for your children and your family. And keep playing that Strat behind you, man. I'm sure it sounds good when it's plugged in.
My Les Paul is my go-to. That one stays on the wall. I got my on the other side there.
Get it off the wall. Play it.
Will do.
I got to take you for bubble tea, too. Next time I'm back in Vancouver, go down to White Rock. Mr. Chew, you ever been there?
Buy it a lot.
Best bubble tea in all of BC. I promise you that, my friend. I'll take you. I owe you one.
We'll go for sure, man. Hey, it was great doing this. I really appreciate and all the best to you guys.
Well, everybody, thank you very much for watching this episode with Dusty Imoo as a part of our summer interview series. We are the greatest hockey show on the planet, and we do new episodes every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 in the Prairies here in Winnipeg, 9 in Calgary, 8 in the Pacific Northwest. The show is on YouTube.
What time in Tokyo?
I don't know. Google it. Above my pay grade. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button for more episodes. If you're on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review. The clips are on Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. I'm Travis Ridgen. That's Dave Wheeler. That's Dusty Imoo. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.